Picture this for a moment. You pull $20,000 out of your retirement account because you want to take the grandkids on a trip they will remember for the rest of their lives. Sounds reasonable, right? But then the IRS turns around and treats that withdrawal like you actually earn more than $30,000. Your tax bill jumps. Your Medicare premiums go up. And the worst part is, that one decision keeps following you around for years, quietly draining money you worked your whole life to protect. That is not a made-up horror story. That is what happens to thousands of retirees every single year, and almost all of them never saw it coming. In the next few minutes, you are going to see exactly how to avoid that trap and which accounts to pull from first so that more of your money stays with you and your family instead of going straight to Uncle Sam. We are going to walk through this together, one step at a time, and by the time we are done, you will have a clear picture of how to handle this the right way. Once you stop working, the paycheck stops showing up, but your need for steady, reliable income absolutely does not. So here is what you are going to learn today. You will learn how to line up your income sources in the right order so money flows smoothly without unnecessary tax pain. You will learn how the tax rules in 2025 and 2026 treat IRA withdrawals, Roth withdrawals, and brokerage account withdrawals very differently from each other. You will learn how to avoid 3 serious financial traps that catch most retirees completely off guard, specifically the Social Security tax torpedo, the Medicare surcharge known as IRMA, and the forced withdrawals that kick in later in life called required minimum distributions. And to make all of this completely real and not just theory, you are going to see a detailed example of a couple in their late 60s and watch how simply changing the order they pull from their accounts gives them years of extra spending money without changing a single investment. Stay with this all the way to the end because the final section gives you a straightforward yearly checklist you can keep right next to your tax return and use every single year to stay on track. This is not complicated once you see the full picture laid out clearly, so let us get into it. Before you can decide which account to pull from first, you need to get very clear on what actually replaces your paycheck when you retire. For most Americans who are 55 or older, there are usually 4 or 5 main pools of money available in retirement. The first 2 are Social Security and any pension or annuity income you might have. These are your fixed income sources. They show up every month whether the stock market is flying high or falling apart. The other 3 are your tax-deferred accounts like a traditional IRA, a 401k, or a 403b, your taxable brokerage accounts which might be individual or joint investment accounts, and your tax-free accounts like a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k. Here is the thing. Social Security and pensions are on autopilot. Everything else is completely in your hands. Your real job in retirement is to build your own paycheck by filling the space between what you want to spend and what those automatic sources actually pay you each month. Most people stop right there and ask themselves a simple question. Which of my accounts has the most money in it? And then they just start pulling from that one. That single habit is exactly how people end up paying dramatically more in taxes than they ever needed to. The size of the account is almost never the right reason to pull from it first. The tax consequences are what matter, and those consequences are very different depending on which account the money comes from. Once you understand that, everything else starts to fall into place. Now, before you even think about choosing which bucket to tap first, you need to know where the landmines are buried, because there are 3 big ones and they are all hiding in plain sight. The first one is called the Social Security tax torpedo. In the United States, your Social Security benefits can be either completely untaxed, partially taxed at 50%, or taxed at up to 85% at the federal level. It all depends on something called your combined income, which is your adjusted gross income plus any tax-free interest you earn plus half of your Social Security benefits added together. Using the thresholds that have been in place for years and still apply in 2026, if you are married filing jointly and your combined income stays under $32,000, your Social Security benefits are completely tax-free. If that combined income lands between $32,000 and $44,000, up to 50% of your benefits can become taxable. Go above $44,000 and up to 85% of your benefits can be taxed. Here is what makes this so dangerous. Those dollar thresholds have not been adjusted for inflation since the 1980s. That means more and more retirees get pulled into this tax every single year just by standing still. So a small extra IRA withdrawal of maybe $2,000 can suddenly drag a large portion of your Social Security into taxable territory and make it feel like your tax rate just doubled overnight. The second landmine is Medicare IRMA, which stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. In 2025, if your modified adjusted gross income from 2 years earlier crosses $106,000 as a single filer or $212,000 as a married couple, your Medicare Part B and Part D premiums start climbing in tiers. Those surcharges can add hundreds of dollars per month per person, and here is the brutal part, crossing the threshold by even $1 triggers the entire surcharge. And because IRMA looks back 2 years, a large Roth conversion or a big IRA withdrawal you make in your late 60s can come back and surprise you with higher Medicare bills in your early 70s when you least expect it. The third landmine is required minimum distributions. Starting in your early 70s, the exact age depending on your birth year, the IRS requires you to pull a specific amount out of your traditional IRA and 401k accounts every single year, and every dollar of that forced withdrawal gets taxed as ordinary income. The larger the balance sitting in your tax-deferred accounts when RMDs begin, the bigger those forced withdrawals will be, and the easier it becomes to trigger both the Social Security torpedo and IRMA at the same time. Shortly, you will see how one couple uses the years before RMDs to quietly shrink those future balances and smooth their taxes out for the rest of their lives. To understand why the order you withdraw matters so much, you need to see your accounts through a tax lens, not just a balance lens. Think of your money as sitting in 3 differently colored buckets, and each color gets taxed in a completely different way. The first bucket is your taxable brokerage account. When you sell investments that have grown in this account, you mostly pay long-term capital gains on that growth, and the rate is often 0, 15, or 20% depending on your overall income level. In 2025, a married couple filing jointly can have up to roughly $96,700 of long-term capital gains and qualified dividends taxed at the 0% rate if their other income is low enough. That is a powerful tool if you use it correctly. The second bucket is your tax-deferred accounts, meaning your traditional IRA and your 401k. Every single dollar that comes out of these accounts is taxed exactly like a paycheck, as ordinary income at your regular tax rate. In 2025 for married couples filing jointly, the 12% bracket runs from $23,851 up to $96,950 of taxable income. The 22% bracket picks up right there and runs up to $206,700. The third bucket is your tax-free accounts, meaning your Roth IRA and Roth 401k. If you have met the age requirement and the 5-year rule, every qualified withdrawal from these accounts is completely tax-free. It does not count toward your Social Security combined income formula. It does not count toward your IRMA calculation. It is invisible to the IRS for those purposes. Now sit with that for a second. $1 pulled from your traditional IRA might push you into a higher tax bracket, trigger more of your Social Security to become taxable, and nudge you closer to an IRMA surcharge tier, all at once. $1 pulled from your Roth might do absolutely none of that. So the question you should always be asking is not just where is the money, but which dollar causes the least damage when I take it out today. Most retirees with multiple account types benefit from following a specific withdrawal sequence. It is not rigid, and every situation has its own details, but the general order that tends to win most of the time looks like this. First, use your taxable brokerage account and any available cash in a thoughtful, deliberate way. Second, make controlled traditional IRA withdrawals or Roth conversions up to a target tax bracket that makes sense for your situation. Third, delay Social Security and sometimes pensions if doing so makes mathematical sense for your health and life expectancy. Fourth, protect your Roth accounts for last and for genuine financial emergencies. Now let us look at how this plays out specifically during your 60s, roughly ages 60 to 70, because this is one of the most valuable planning windows your entire financial life will offer you. Your regular paycheck has stopped or slowed down significantly. Social Security may not have started yet or you are intentionally holding it back. Medicare may not yet be applying IRMA surcharges, especially if you are not yet 63. That means your taxable income in these years is often lower than it will be in your 70s when both RMDs and full Social Security are running at the same time. In these early retirement years, a common and powerful pattern is to first cover your everyday living expenses from your taxable brokerage and any cash savings. Then add just enough traditional IRA withdrawals or Roth conversions to bring your taxable ordinary income up to the top of the 12% bracket, or carefully into the lower part of the 22% bracket if the numbers still look favorable. And through all of this, leave your Roth accounts completely untouched so they keep growing completely tax-free. The goal is not to pay zero in taxes this year. The goal is to smooth your tax burden evenly across your entire lifetime, so you are not setting yourself up for a massive, unavoidable tax bill later. Now let us make all of this real. Meet Robert, 68, and Carol, 65, a married couple who recently retired. Here is their full financial picture. They want to spend $90,000 per year after taxes. They have no pension. Based on their work history, if they claim Social Security right now, they would receive a combined $48,000 per year. But if Robert waits until age 70, his individual benefit will be meaningfully higher. They have $500,000 in a taxable brokerage account, $700,000 in traditional IRAs and 401k accounts, and $300,000 in Roth IRAs. They are both healthy, expect to live well into their 80s, and they genuinely want to leave something behind for their children. So here is how phase 1 of their retirement looks. Robert decides to delay Social Security until age 70 and Carol waits until her own full retirement age. That means for the first several years, every dollar of their income must come directly from their savings. Their target is to keep their taxable income mostly within the 12% bracket and the lower portion of the 22% bracket using the current 2025 married filing jointly thresholds. Each year, they pull a substantial chunk of their spending money from the taxable brokerage account, realizing long-term capital gains that fall inside the 0% capital gains range when combined with their standard deduction. Then they add enough traditional IRA withdrawals or Roth conversions to bring their ordinary taxable income up to the top of the 12% bracket, sometimes nudging slightly into the 22% bracket when the overall math still works in their favor. Why go through all of this? Because right now, in these early years, they are sitting in low tax brackets and they have not yet triggered the Social Security torpedo or IRMAA. By doing this proactively, Robert and Carol are methodically shrinking that large pile of pre-tax money that would otherwise generate enormous forced withdrawals and steep tax bills starting in their 70s. Instead of letting the IRS decide later how much they must pull and when, they are quietly moving money into their Roth accounts entirely on their own terms, at a tax rate they chose. Then phase 2 begins. Robert turns on Social Security at 70 with a noticeably higher monthly benefit, and Carol activates hers at her full retirement age. Their financial world looks different now. They have a solid fixed income base coming in every month from Social Security. They still need to pull some additional money from savings, but far less than before. Here is the shift that matters. Now, every IRA dollar they withdraw has the potential to push more of their Social Security into taxable territory because of those fixed combined income thresholds sitting at $32,000 and $44,000 for married couples. So from this point forward, their order adjusts. First, they take whatever required minimum distributions are required from their traditional accounts. That part is not optional. Then, if they need more income beyond Social Security plus their RMDs, they fill that gap from the taxable brokerage account, staying mindful of long-term capital gains. They tap the Roth only when they specifically need to avoid crossing into a higher tax bracket or tripping an IRMAA threshold. The Roth has become their safety valve. It is perfectly suited for large one-time expenses, a new roof, a car, helping a grandchild with college costs, without pushing their income into a painful tax zone. The work they did in their 60s is now paying off in a very concrete way. They have smaller RMDs, lower taxable Social Security income, and far more control over their Medicare costs. Same exact accounts. Completely different order. A very different lifetime tax story. Here are the most important principles you can take from all of this and review every single year. The first one is to never mindlessly drain one account completely before moving to the next. It is almost never the right move to spend down only your taxable accounts, then only your IRA, then only your Roth in strict order. Blending all three sources together, guided by where you sit in the tax brackets and what the thresholds are, almost always produces a better result. The second principle is to use your taxable accounts and measured IRA withdrawals during your 60s to proactively shrink the future size of your RMDs. If you can fill up the 12% bracket today and step carefully into the 22% bracket using the 2025 thresholds, you are doing your future self an enormous favor instead of sitting still and being forced into higher brackets later when you have no choice. The third principle is to keep a close eye on that Social Security combined income formula and know exactly where the $32,000 and $44,000 thresholds sit for married couples, because extra IRA withdrawals that seem small can quietly trigger a large portion of your benefits to become taxable. The fourth principle is to remember that the years before age 63 are often your best window for Roth conversions. Those are the years before your income can affect your Medicare IRMAA calculation at 65, which in 2025 first applies when your 2023 income exceeded $106,000 as a single filer or $212,000 as a married couple. The fifth principle is to protect your Roth and let it grow. Save it for late life flexibility, for large unexpected expenses, and potentially for your heirs, because qualified Roth withdrawals do not show up in your taxable income and do not count toward IRMAA calculations. And now here is your yearly kitchen table checklist. This is the simple routine you can walk through once a year, maybe over a quiet cup of coffee or alongside your tax professional. Step 1. Write down all of your fixed income for the coming year. That means Social Security, any pension or annuity income, rental income, or any part-time work you are doing. Step 2. Decide honestly how much you want to spend for the year. If you are planning to visit family, fix something around the house, or travel somewhere meaningful, include those numbers. Be real with yourself. Step 3. Calculate the gap. Take your total spending goal and subtract your fixed income. The number left over is what you need to pull from your savings accounts this year. Step 4. Choose your target tax bracket for the year. Look at the current 2025 brackets. Know clearly where the 12% bracket ends and where the 22% bracket begins for your specific filing status. Step 5. Fill that gap in the right order. In most years, that means taking enough IRA withdrawals or making enough Roth conversions to fill your chosen bracket without triggering unnecessary Social Security taxation or crossing an IRMAA line. Then pull whatever remains from your taxable brokerage account, aiming to keep most of your gains inside the 0% long-term capital gains range when that is possible. Tap your Roth only when you need to specifically avoid jumping into a higher bracket or triggering a significant increase in Medicare premiums. Step 6. Do a mid-year check if anything major shifts. A property sale, an inheritance, or a large unexpected medical bill can all change what the best mix looks like for that year, so revisit the math when big things happen. And yes, this sounds like a lot at first. But once you do it 2 or 3 years in a row, it becomes a natural rhythm, just the way checking your paycheck used to feel automatic. Pulling money from your retirement accounts in the right order is very much like placing stepping stones carefully across a river. If you rush and jump toward the wrong stone, you might end up completely soaked. But if you place each step with patience and care, you can cross all the way to the other side and actually enjoy the view along the way. You have seen today how different accounts carry very different tax consequences. You have seen how the Social Security torpedo and Medicare IRMAA can quietly chip away at your income if you are not watching the thresholds. You have seen how using your 60s wisely, specifically with taxable accounts and controlled IRA withdrawals, can make your 70s and 80s significantly more financially comfortable. If you take only one single thing from everything covered today, let it be this. The order you withdraw from your accounts can matter more than the actual investments sitting inside those accounts once you have already retired. This video is educational in nature and is not personal tax advice or legal advice. The right withdrawal strategy for you specifically depends on your health, your state taxes, whether you are filing as a single person or as a married couple, and how much you have accumulated across each type of account. Take what you learned here and bring it to a qualified tax professional or a fiduciary financial planner who genuinely understands retirement income planning. If you would like, drop a comment below sharing what mix of accounts you have, tax-deferred, Roth, and taxable, and a future video can walk through withdrawal examples that look a lot more like your own specific situation. Thank you sincerely for spending this time here today. You worked incredibly hard for every dollar you saved. Now it is time to make sure every one of those dollars works just as hard for you.